Excellent.
You're on.
Okay, let me just get this back. Okay, sorry for that little technical snag. We're back in business now, gentlemen and ladies. Okay, so first of all, I would just like to take this opportunity to give a special thanks to, first of all, the 2nd Battalion, 21e Régiment d'Infanterie de Ligne in the UK. It is their recordings that are used to do the movies of the different maneuvers. It was a session that we conducted last year, I think in March. So thanks to them for letting me use their recording once more. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank Henri Caporali of Guide Généraux in France, who is the man that did most of the illustrations that you'll be seeing along here. Thanks to Jakub Samuk of the Central European Napoleonic Society in the Czech Republic. It's his animations that you'll be seeing. And of course to Victor of Brigade Napoleon in North America for again organizing and hosting, and for bending my arm again to do this. As always, kind donations are kindly accepted via PayPal, just to allow me to have a little bit of a drink at the end of this, at your guise, as we say in France. Do not consider it mandatory. The only thing that we do ask to pay for will be the recording and PowerPoint presentations. Okay, so how are we going to work today? There's going to be 3 big parts. The first part I called the basics. So the basics will just be going down how to organize your platoon for the purposes of reenactment. This will be, all the maneuvers you'll be seeing will be done on 2 ranks, not 3. We will also be talking about the importance of what is called the cadre. That is the officer and NCOs, the guides, that are absolutely necessary to do any and all maneuvers once you get into the platoon, and they're even more indispensable when you get into a battalion school. We will then look at the actual 1791 platoon maneuvers after that. And at the end, we will be looking at the some case studies. By case studies, these are just photos I've gathered from various websites and Facebook pages of reenactment groups. It is meant to try and put into practice what you're going to learn and see if you can spot if maneuvers are being done correctly, and if not, how can we improve them to make them better? How can we improve them to make them more in line in what is taught in the regulations? So without further ado, let's go straight into basics. Forming your reenactment infantry platoon. I have scaled down the platoon. So in total, this is a platoon of 28 men, full cadre, 24 soldiers divided into 2 ranks. So the cadres themselves, you have a platoon commander, chef de peloton in French. You have a 2nd section commander, chef de 2e section, a covering sergeant or a covering NCO, sous-officier de remplacement, and the left-hand guide, guide de gauche. If you look at the diagram, the captain or the platoon commander is represented in a white cube with C. The covering sergeant is in white as well with a 1, and the 2, the Arab 2 on the left in the rear supernumerary rank is the left-hand guide, and the Roman 2 is the 2nd section commander. These are part of what is called the supernumerary rank, or file closers, as it appears also in the translation of the French regulations of the time. They are 2 paces to the rear. A platoon, as a general rule of thumb, when you're organizing your platoons, if you have 12 files or more, so the files are the soldiers' files. It is not the command file on the right-hand side. That is not part of that number. But if you have 12 files, you can divide your platoon into 2 equal sections. If you have less than 12 files, you should consider the entire block as just a section, and therefore you do not need a 2nd section commander, whereas for the other one, you will definitely need one. Regardless of whether you have 12 files, 24 files, 50 files, it will still be these 4 men that are the linchpin for all the maneuvers that a platoon needs to do. And as the words are clear, as the words illustrate, CADs are mandatory. A lot of people, alas, still think that they are extras, they're not needed, it takes a man away from firing, etc. No, these are absolutely essential to have in order to do platoon maneuvers. Otherwise, in essence, you are just reacting to details on the ground, let's say. Just also to underline that within the regulations, for the French infantry always is on 3 ranks. However, in the setup just before you go into the platoon school, it indicates that when the number of files is under 12, the platoon must be formed 2 deep when executing the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th lessons. In essence, all those lessons are maneuvers. So either there is even a precedent, a blessing, that under 12 you can form up in 2 ranks. So 2 ranks is not exactly something, it's not a heresy to form your sections up in 2 ranks like, or your platoons in 2 ranks like we do in reenactment. And again, for the purposes of this presentation, everything will be discussed on a reenactment platoon on 2 ranks with 28 men in total, 24 soldiers and 4 cads. Just as part of the basics as well, I'd just like to go over some things that are said in the platoon school, but not, or just after the platoon school, but are not in the soldier school. So for example, the carriages of arms for NCOs. So sergeants and sergeant majors, when they are at the porte arm, while everybody else is carrying their arms, they are carrying it like figure 1 is illustrated. This is their porte. Corporals, when they are in the ranks, carry their arms like soldiers. If they are acting as a guide or they are in the supernumerary rank at porte, they carry the musket like a sergeant or sergeant major. If the orders are to put l'arme à volonté, descendre armes, l'arme au bras, etc., the sergeants execute the orders like a soldier. This is the only difference they have from soldiers, is that they can go to porte, they carry their weapons at porte in this fashion. Again, the officers carry carriages of arms. So in ranks, when they are in the ranks, the officer carries his sword like in figure 2. When they are outside the ranks, they carry the swords like figure 3. What is outside the rank, inside the rank? It's very simple. When they are in the line of battle, in their position on the right, they carry the sword as such. When they are not, they carry the sword with the tip in the left hand. You will be seeing later on in the presentation the different positions of the officer, and so it will be very clear when he's in the ranks and when he's out of the ranks. Presenting arms for officers, I've seen thus far 5 different ways of doing it. There is only one sanctioned way, which is explained here. So when the orders are given to present arms, présenter armes, the officer automatically lifts the sword perpendicularly so the blade covers the right eye, the guard as high as the right breast and elbow against the body, and then he swings it down in a vertical circle by extending the arm so that the right hand is next to the right thigh, and he stays in this position until the person that is being saluted has passed 2 paces in front of him. Once that's done, he automatically and without being told to do so, raises the sword back up before the right eye and then goes back into his porte position like in figure 2. So when you get the order of présenter, I've seen more often than not officers like cavalrymen keeping their swords up over their right eye. No, it should be up, down, stay like that. Once the person who has been saluted has passed you by 2 paces, back up and then back into your garde-à-vous positions. This one's for Victor, who did mention that it would be interesting to know about this. So presenting arms for the flag bearer, according to the 1791 regulations, which were written before eagles were a thing, it has to be said. It says that the person that is to be saluted being 6 paces away, the flag bearer will slowly lower the staff until it is 6 inches from the ground. Once the person being saluted has passed by 2 paces, again, those 2 paces, lift the staff back into position. Obviously, this starts to get complicated with the heavy eagle at the end of the pole. Therefore, there's a general order of 13th of July 1805 that states that when the flag bearer salutes, the flag will only be inclined forward by 45 degrees. Again, they incline forward by 45 degrees. When the person who is being saluted goes past you, it comes back into that position. And in the 1808 and 1813 editions of the Bardin's Manual of Infantry, it states exactly the same dispositions as this general order. And I found the famous painting of Jena, where we can see, just as Napoleon's coming along, that eagle is inclining, and it does look like a 45-degree angle. A general thing that's at the end of each lesson in the platoon school, they always make a point of resting the soldiers before going on. This is a good opportunity just to explain the two ways of resting your soldiers. The first is just a relax, which is either l'arme au bras or reposer arme, and then you just say repos. At this point, the men are not required neither to be steady nor to maintain their positions. They can turn around, they can chat, so that it's really a relaxed position, but they just stay in their spot. If you don't want them to be that much relaxed, but you do want them to rest a bit, then you have to order l'arme au bras, en place repos. When this command is given, the soldiers now are no longer required to keep the body stiff and steady. They can relax, they can talk, but they must keep either heel exactly in their place. So you can fix your left heel for a bit, and if you want to turn around to the other side, you could put your right heel in that spot, as long as one of the heels is in place. But this one, according to regulation, is only to be done at l'arme au bras and with the command en place repos. The other one, repos, a lot more relaxed, can be done either with l'arme au bras or with the reposer arme. Before we dive into the maneuvers themselves, are there any observations or questions about these little basics?
Doesn't look like there are any questions.
Okay, so we'll move on to that one. Right, so the division of the School of the Platoon is a lot denser than the School of the Soldier. The School of the Soldier, as you remembered, only had 3 parts to it. The Platoon School has 6. Each of the 6 lessons have 5 articles or 5 things that they are working on. We will not be going into great detail into all of them. Some of them we will be merely looking at the essentials, how they work, and then swiftly moving on. Everything that is the detail of loading and firing, etc., that is available in much more detail in the Ecole du Soldat that was done previously. So first of all, let's have a look at the 1st and 5th articles of the first lesson. So it's opening and closing the ranks. Okay. So to open, as you can see, the platoon commander orders en arrière, ouvrez vos rangs. So to the rear, open your ranks. This is not the order for the soldiers to move. They're waiting for march. This order is just in the sense of our 2-rank reenactment platoon for the cover sergeant to fall back in line with the men of the supernumerary rank. The color sergeant will now serve as the dressing point. Sorry, not the color sergeant, the covering sergeant will now serve as the dressing point for that 2nd rank when it goes back. The platoon commander, having estimated that the covering sergeant has had enough time to go back on that supernumerary rank, then orders march. At that point, the entire 2nd rank marches backwards, and observing the principles that were learned in dressing at the soldier school, clears the covering sergeant by 1 pace, halts, turns its eyes to the right in this case, and then taking little steps, dresses up. It is not dressed back straight onto the dressing point when you're dressing backwards. You have to go past the line, 1 step past the line, stop, and then come back using little steps. Meanwhile, the supernumerary rank file closers just come back and maintain their distance with the 2nd rank. In this formation, there can be a review. What's the interesting part of this formation? It can be used maybe for review if an inspecting general wants to go up and down both ranks. Likewise, it can be a good formation also to inspect arms. with the covering sergeant inspecting the arms or uniforms, as the case may be, of the second rank, and the platoon commander inspecting the front rank. It then also talks about certain dressings. Article 2 is dressing in open order, while Article 5 is dressing in close order. So open order is the formation that we saw just before, when the two ranks are separated. This can either be done by files or by ranks. For files, it is par file à droite ou à gauche, depending on what side you want to dress. Alignement. With files, each man dresses one after the other, with each man starting off when the preceding soldier has marched 2 paces before him. So it's each man coming up to dress on his own, one after another. Whereas close order, it's the entire formation, or by ranks, it's the entire rank. That can also be done in close order. It just needs to be either mentioned par file, by file, or if it's just à droite ou à gauche, that's the entire rank. Okay. All the dressings in this school are executed after having placed 3 men on the new line. So it's normally 3 men on the 3 left-hand files, or the 3 right-hand files, depending on where the dressing is. During the training, the platoon commander observes and is responsible for the dressing of the first rank, and the covering sergeant for the second rank. Men continue to look out to the dressing point until such time as they hear the order fixe, that is eyes front. Okay. Before we go into the firings, are there any questions about opening ranks and the dressings? Okay.
Sorry, can I start something? It just took me a quick minute to get my microphone on. You're only talking about a guide on the right, not a guide on the left.
The covering sergeant, you mean?
Yeah, and from the cercle.
Yeah, the covering sergeant, he's the guy directly behind the captain. So when he comes back down to indicate where that pointed, he is lining himself up with the supernumerary rank, but he doesn't walk back with them. He just stays in that spot.
I understand that, but isn't there also a man from the left, a guide for to give the left and right side of the alignment line?
No, not in the school of the platoon, not in an individual platoon. Yes, in the individual platoon, there would be another man, a fugleman or an NCO that will be positioned on the left-hand side. Why? It is to simulate the covering sergeant of the platoon to the left of you, his covering sergeant coming down. Because when a battalion does this, it's only the covering sergeants that come down, and they will all be forming on that same line. So yes, if you're dressing as an individual platoon, you should have a man, the left-hand guide would be perfect for this, who just comes out on the side to simulate the covering sergeant of the platoon that's on your left. But otherwise, no, you don't need him once you get into a battalion.
Yeah, because when you have a single platoon, the guide from the cercle on the far left actually goes to mark the left of the platoon.
Yeah, that's the left-hand guard of the platoon, of the battalion. Yeah.
Yeah, and therefore for moving en arrière, there's 2 markers, a left and a right-hand marker.
Correct. That's once you get up into battalion school, but otherwise, yeah, there's nothing stopping you. And the regulation does say use a fugleman or an NCO to simulate that covering sergeant on the left-hand platoon in the battalion.
Okay, Patrick, you have a question?
Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Just a quick question, not necessarily for this, but in general, are you going to address sometime when orders are repeated? I mean, if a sergeant or a corporal repeats, or if it's a very noisy combat environment.
According to the regulation, the only order that is repeated is the order of execution. So you have always 2 parts to every order. You have a preparatory, for example, portée, and then you have the execution, arme. So you have en arrière, that's the preparatory, marche, that's the execution. The regulations don't talk about who says what. The only thing they say is that the platoon commanders when the order of execution, the executory order is given, repeat it at the same time. Now, that's what the regulations say. The way we do it in the composite battalion, we've sort of come up with a rule that preparation orders will be repeated, but execution orders will only be given by one person. So, for example, in the case of a battalion that's preparing to shoulder arms, the battalion commander would say, "Portez." That would be repeated by all the other platoon, by the platoon commanders. So you would hear "Portez, portez, 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 portez." And that would just be the battalion commander that gives it. That is not what the regulations say. The regulations say it should be the preparing orders are just given by the officer commanding. So the battalion commander once you get into a battalion, and the execution orders are also given by the battalion commander, but repeated at the same time by all the other platoon commanders. Who else should be giving orders in that line? Nobody. More people, if the more people start to shout and repeat orders, the more confusion there's going to be. Hence why, in terms of the composite battalion, this is not what the regulations say. This is just something that's done in the composite battalion at reenactment in France at the moment. Is the preparatory orders will be repeated. If necessary, if no one hears it, an NCO might repeat the preparatory order. But once you have that lull, so once you hear the portez, 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 lull, arm. That's where everybody would just execute it on that one call. I don't know if that makes it clear, if my answer's been too long, Pat.
No, that's clear. Thank you.
Okay, so you've got the official regulations say this. We do it like this simply because we find it more practical to do it like this. But if other battalions find other ways of doing it, why not? As long as it, I suppose, gets the thing done, it's up to them to find what's most convenient. But if you're asking just from purely regulations, it should be just one person giving all the orders. Execution orders are repeated at the same time by the platoon commanders only. Any other questions?
Oh, you can go ahead.
Okay. I should also point out that to close the ranks, once you've opened them, the orders are simply "Fermez vos rangs," close your ranks, "Marche," and at which point the covering sergeant and the second rank, followed by the file closers, just go up and close. It's a lot easier than opening. So now we move on to lesson 2, article 3. So this is direct and oblique firing. So on the left, you've got the orders, who does what and when. And just to give you a little bit of an idea, this is when you're oblique firing. So oblique firing, I repeat, is only done when the whole platoon is firing at the same time, and this is not individual file firing. And direct firing is just volley fire. It's called volley fire generally. The platoon commander, as you can see on the right-hand side of the picture, he falls back to 2 paces, 1.3 meters behind the center of the platoon to give his orders. The covering sergeant, to let him out, comes back and dresses with the supernumerary rank. For all firings, be it by files, direct or oblique, the covering sergeant, all he does is just fall straight back onto the supernumerary rank. For the officer, if it's a direct or oblique firing, he comes to behind the supernumerary rank vis-a-vis the center of his company to give his orders. However, and this is where we're moving on, if it's firing by independent files, the feu de deux rangs, the sergeant falls back to alongside the supernumerary rank, as you can see. But if you look at the top right-hand corner of the illustration, you see the captain just falls back 1 pace, that's 0.65 meters, still in his command file, and that's where he will observe the firing and give the orders for firing. When I say give the orders, it would simply be commencer le feu. The orders are feu de deux rangs, firing by independent files, peloton, arme, commencer le feu. Commencer le feu, commence firing. It's not in order to fire, it's just commence fire. So the right-hand file will fire together. Once they have primed their muskets, the next file will fire, and so forth all the way down. But only the first time they fire will the two men of a file fire together. Once they've fired, everybody in a two-rank line loads and fires as quickly as he can. So it's independent fire at will, I suppose, would be another way of explaining it. Once the firing is to stop, the order in the regulations is roulement, which means a drum roll, but you'd only have the drum do that. So at drum roll, all the soldiers don't fire, reload, or carry the muskets if they're already loaded. And at coup de baguette, so tap of the drumstick, which everybody goes back to their position. So that's the captain moves back up to the front of the right-hand side of the platoon, and the covering sergeant comes up behind him and stands on the right of the second rank. Firings, any questions?
Looks like you can continue.
Okay. And
Just
again,
a quick,
Oh.
yeah, sorry, a quick question.
Si.
So even if you have an independent platoon or the platoon in the battalion, the covering sergeant just go back. You don't get covered by the first fire.
no, the covering sergeant in all firings, whether it's an independent platoon or when you go up into a battalion, the covering sergeant just goes back vis-a-vis his file in line with the supernumerary file. That's it. That's his only job. He has one thing to remember. The officer has two things to remember, depending whether it's a direct or oblique firing or firing by files.
Thanks.
No problem. No problem. Okay, moving on. Lesson 2, Article 5, firing to the rear. So you never know what comes up behind you at a reenactment, and I suppose in the real field of battle, they've obviously written this, so therefore it must have been useful at some point. You can't just turn around and fire. Why? Because if you just turn around and fire, you're going to kill all the men that's standing in the supernumerary rank. So the first thing that you will have is the order feu en arrière, firing to the rear, peloton demi-tour. At that point, the men take up the first position of a right about turn, and the supernumerary ranks go off, and via the file of the command file of the platoon, as you can see, they go through that file. So the captain goes off to stand in the center of his platoon. The covering sergeant comes up vis-a-vis where the future supernumerary rank will be. Once all the supernumerary rankers have come around and have taken up their new positions in the rear, you command à droite, the soldiers are right about face, and now you're ready to fire. Once you finish firing to the rear, you give the orders face en tête, front face, peloton demi-tour, droite. And of course, while that's happening, the supernumerary file men are also doing exactly the same thing, coming by the command file of the platoon to take up their positions once again in the rear of the platoon. A pretty simple maneuver to do. Just bearing in mind that when you come up to battalion school, it does say that a platoon's supernumerary file closers don't need to all go through their file commander's file. The ones on the left-hand side can also use the file of the platoon next to them because it's quicker than going all around the front of your platoon. But when you're here in platoon school, everybody goes down the same file. You can't just take that shortcut if you're the left-hand guy around the left. Okay, I'll move on to that. This is not in the platoon school, strictly speaking. This is after the platoon school. Dispositions against cavalry. The reason why I've put it here, it's just another form of firing. When it talks about dispositions to take against the cavalry, there is an order called feu de rang. So you have feu de deux rangs, firing by two files. That's the by two ranks. That's the independent file that we've just seen. Feu de rang is firing by files, okay? And because it's it's a firing that's used when you're in square, when you're defending yourself against cavalry, the orders are actually, if I translate them, so feu de rang par bataillon, firing by ranks by battalion, croiser la baïonnette, charge bayonets. The soldiers take up the position you see in the image. And then afterwards, the battalion commanders will say bataillon, arme, croiser la baïonnette, feu. So you're firing in this position. You're coming down at the charge bayonet position, and you will arm and fire the three ranks together in this position. It does exist, like I said, it is one of the ways to resist cavalry. I do not recommend doing this for a reenactment. Whether it's on three ranks or two, I can personally see a lot of things going wrong with this, but on two ranks, maybe with men that are sure not to burn each other's hands off or cartridge box, why not test? But at least you have the information here. Finally, the soldiers, once they've learned how to open ranks, once they've learned how to dress together, once they've learned and executed all their different firings, they finally start to move. So the first part, well, lesson 3, articles 1, 2, 3, and 4 is all about marching in line. I've summarized the articles in themselves. So in essence, to teach them to march straight, you get a very well-dressed man or an NCO, and he stands 6 paces, 3.9 meters in front of the captain. And he picks, the regulations explain, this man picks points along the ground in a straight line so that he doesn't veer off to the left or the right during the march. The captain, that everybody should be dressing to when you march in line, his instruction during this platoon school is to march directly behind this fugleman. Of course, once you go up into battalion and once you start doing it for real, you don't have a fugleman, but the captain himself, he will also pick some points along the ground in front of him to walk to, but all the while he has to make sure that he's dressing to the center of the battalion. Everybody should be dressing to the center of the battalion. In this case, for an independent platoon, everybody dresses to the captain. And of course, the soldiers keep their heads direct to the front, feeling lightly the elbow of the man next to them on the side of the platoon commander. Very simple, very basic. We've all done it. If you need to walk in line, but to the rear, you first of all have to order peloton demi-tour droite, at which point everybody turns around. But as you can see in the film, the supernumerary rank does not need to go to the rear. You are not firing, so we don't need to wait for them to come to the rear to start marching. They just turn right about turn on the spot where they are. The covering sergeant, as you can see, steps out in line with the supernumerary rank. The captain comes up and takes his place, and then everybody marches off. The dressing point for this is that covering sergeant. Everybody should be dressing on him. The captain follows him, and that supernumerary rank stays in line with him. Once you've arrived at the suitable distance, all you need to do is just order front, at which point the soldiers will about turn. The captain steps back up into that into the first rank, and the covering sergeant steps back if you're on a 3-rank battle line, like the video is showing, on the 3rd rank. But for the 2-rank line, he just steps up into the 2nd rank behind the captain. Any questions about marching in line, either to the front or to the rear?
Looks like you're okay to go.
Perfect.
If I can just interject one thing, really on the slide before, just as a part-time cavalryman, if you are going to fire on cavalry, not so big a problem to fire when they are coming towards you, but please do not allow your men to fire as the cavalry is turned and is leaving. Horses have a wonderful a feeling that if there's noise behind them, they take off in every direction. And if any of the cavalrymen are not absolutely solid on their horse, that's when you're going to have them hitting the ground. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Having learned how to march in line of battle to the front and to the rear, now the soldiers start to learn about flank marching. So flank marching is in essence marching by files. So the orders, for example, for the right are simply peloton par le flanc à droite, or the contraction par le flanc, peloton flanc droit, droite. Everyone faces to the rear. At that point, everybody faces to the right. The platoon commander steps out one pace and turns to the right. The covering sergeant steps into the place vacated by the platoon commander and he turns to the right. So therefore, as you can see in the image, along the front of the platoon, there will only be the captain. And if you can imagine this on a battalion with many platoons, that entire line is just captains following each other. The captains go where they want. The covering sergeant makes sure that his left arm is against the right arm of the captain and follows him. The front rank men just follow the man in front, and the second rank men keep contact with their file partner. The supernumerary rankers stay in their respective position in the supernumerary rank. When facing to the left flank, now there are two things. In the platoon school, as you can see, par le flanc à gauche, gauche, everybody faces left. The platoon commander steps out and then goes down all the way past his platoon to the left-hand flank. The left-hand guide will come out of the supernumerary file and position himself in front of the left-hand man of the front rank. And his right arm is touching the captain's left arm. Meanwhile, the covering sergeant has stepped up to keep the place of the captain and turn right. Whenever, as a general rule of thumb, the covering sergeant, whenever the platoon commander leaves his battle position, steps up and keeps it for him so that it isn't lost in any future dressing of movements. And when the captain comes back, of course, he cedes the place back to him. This movement is all on the left flank, where the captain moves out to the left flank and the left-hand guide goes onto the left side of the platoon, is only done when the platoon is on its own. If the platoon, and you discover this when you're into platoon school, if the platoon is part of a battalion, when the battalion is ordered left face, the captain will just step forward and face left on the right of his platoon. The covering sergeant likewise steps up and faces right. He does not, the captain does not go to the left flank. Why? Does anybody have an idea? It's an open question. Anybody would like to have a guess? Why does the captain in a battalion doesn't go to the left of his platoon in a left flank?
Can I say it?
Yeah.
Because he's not steering.
Yeah, he's not steering, that's for sure. There's somebody else, but there is also somebody else on that left-hand flank in a battalion. Who might it be?
Well, it would be the captain of the unit on the left of them.
Correct. Yes, you've got the captain and his covering file on that layer on the left of them. So if you are going up, you'll end up walking behind him. Martin's right. It's only on the left most platoon of a battalion. So normally the voltigeurs, if it's a regulation platoon, you would have the left-hand guide, the general left-hand guide of the battalion. He would pop up next to the left-hand guide of that platoon, but the captain would still be in his vis-a-vis his command file. So important for a left flank march in an independent platoon, you need that your left-hand guide to step out and come up on that front rank, and the platoon commander needs to go to shift to the left-hand side of his platoon. But if he's part of a battalion, he does not shift, he stays, he just steps out as if he's going to march off to the right, but faces to the left. I hope that's clear for everybody. If it's not clear, please make a point now. Excellent. So, okay, let's carry on. So this is the basis for flank marching. And again, once you've formed your platoon to the left or the right flank, there is no need to say en avant. Even the regulations say there is no en avant. It's par le flanc droit, droite, marche, par le flanc gauche, gauche, marche. There is not par le flanc à droite, en avant, marche. You're going forward anyway. There is not a snowball's chance in hell that you're going to be marching backwards in a flank march. So just go straight to march. Right, so once you're marching by the flank, you might need to change direction. Lesson 4, Article 2. So when you're wheeling in file to the right, this is what, this is wheeling to the left, what the film is showing you. The order is par file à gauche, marche. At this point, the captain turns. I sometimes get asked, is there a set angle to this? The answer is no. It's the captain. He goes off in the direction where he needs to go. That covering sergeant just makes sure he stays next to him. The front rank man just makes sure to follow the covering sergeant. The second rank men keep in contact with the file leaders, and you can turn it at any angle that you want. There is no set angle. This is just an example. Likewise, when you're doing it by the right, par file à droite, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same principles. As long as the captain knows where he's going, covering sergeant just make sure he stays next to him. Front rank men just follow the covering sergeant, and the second rank men stay next to their file partners. Very simple. Everybody does this. Every reenactment group I've come across around the world knows how to do a flank march. They just don't always necessarily understand they need guides to direct it like this. Moving on. Right, so again, flank marching, you're moving along. We'll imagine that it's the right in front. So you're marching with your right in front. Therefore, to fight in a line of battle, all you would need to do is say halt, front, front. Everybody would turn left and you'd be ready to fight the enemy that was on your left while you're doing the flank march. However, if the enemy is not on the left, the true front, so where the first rank is in this case, you can't just say halt and right face, because now you'll be fighting with your right on the left and with your second rank at the front instead of your first rank. So you need to do a maneuver where you're forming to the right or to the left. It depends which side it is directing. By files, hang in there. This is, I know it's a little bit complicated, but hang in there. So what happens? It's very simple. The orders, sur la droite, par file en bataille. On the right, by file into line of battle. Marche. At that point, the covering sergeant and the platoon commander face right immediately and head in the new direction, so straight down. The platoon commander, if he's part of a battalion, he will have the adjutant that would have already drawn the line with the adjutant major, so he'll know where to stop. If it's an independent platoon, it's the platoon commander that decides where he's going to do his firing line. Stops the covering sergeant, and the covering sergeant is the marker now for all the men coming up. What do the men do? On the order marche, sur la droite par file en bataille, marche. The second rank men mark time. The first rank men continue to march, and as they clear the front, so the first man just behind the sergeant, as soon as he clears where the sergeant is now standing, he turns to the right and starts moving up into the new battle position. The man behind that, behind him will clear the space in front of him, turn and move up alongside him. So it's like a domino effect. Each man is coming up one after another into their new line of battle. Again, same principles for dressing. The man, he turns, he comes up. When he arrives one pace before the dressing point, he stops, turns his eyes out to the dressing point, and with little steps comes up to take his dressing. Meanwhile, the second rank, I've been marking time. Once the first man of that second rank sees 3 or 4 men of the front rank on the new line, he starts off and they turn and come up behind their respective file leaders. Simple. Maybe not the easiest thing to explain, but I hope that the film has helped you understand a little bit more about this maneuver. Are there any specific questions about this, since this is our first complex maneuver of the day?
Okay, looks like Giorgio. You have a question?
No, it was just a remark. It's always I think it's the most complicated part of the training with the platoon most of the time, especially because the hard thing is that the soldier of the second rank must know on their own they don't have to move. Mm. And that's the problem. There is no order. There is no NCO at this beginning of the line of the second rank. Mm. And if they don't remember that, they just gonna each other every time.
Do you remember, Giorgio, who is supposed to be the men standing on the extremities of each sections?
It's supposed to be a corporal.
So someone who's a little bit more intelligent than your average soldier.
We hope that.
Okay, we have a question from Ted.
Yeah, at what pace do they redress the lines? Or once they begin forming the line and that second group comes around, do they walk? Do they do it at a walk? Do they run to fill the space?
Running, no. Running, absolutely not. There are maneuvers like this which is done in quick time. I must admit, I cannot remember if this is done in quick time or at the ordinary. My gut feeling would say this is the ordinary. However, if somebody would like, if they have the translation of the regulation, if they could just quickly have a look and signal to Victor the answer, because I must admit it's a blank. I've got my gut feeling is this is done at the ordinary, but I'm very happy for somebody to quickly have a look in the book and point out if it is the case or not.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions?
I have one question, please.
Yes.
So what about alignment? So is the captain supposed to be that way because the first man in rank have to put the shoulder on the chest and put the alignment like that, and all the other soldiers stay in alignment on the right, and when they form the line, the captain command fixed or no?
The captain, yes, I think the captain does command her. Yeah, the captain does order fix. I've got the feeling that the captain does order fix when he's happy. The reason why he's standing looking down the line is he's responsible for the dressing. So if he sees anybody not dressing correctly, he can quickly correct this before the other men arrive. And I've got the feeling, yeah, there's a fix. I think there is a fix, but again, I'm not 100% sure for this particular maneuver. So if somebody can look in the book and just confirm if there is a fix or not, I'll stand corrected if I'm wrong. But I've got the feeling there is a fix in this one. But he has to observe down the line the dressing of his men. Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So can I finish?
Yeah.
So, but they have to make the alignment on the captain. He makes the alignment or not?
No, the men do their alignment on the covering sergeant. If you look at the film now, it's number one, the covering sergeant. He is the dressing point. They dress on that on the covering sergeant.
Yeah, clear. Thank you.
No problem. Yes.
For those who don't have the chat on, the answer is it's au pas ordinaire.
So ordinary time. My gut didn't let me down this time. So it's ordinary time. You're not running and.
Can I make a?
Martin?
Could I just make a comment from my? It's a very complicated maneuver, but it's great fun to do. In reenactment terms, it's always nice to give the men a reason to want to do it. And when you're marching like this, if you have the bottom of the screen is the line of the audience, and if you find a pretty girl in the audience, you can have the entire platoon lined up right in front of them with smiles on their faces, and it's very amusing to watch the girls blush And you can smile and then move off.
I do believe the 2nd Battalion 21st used this a couple of years ago, and it actually was the first time the Brits saw something like this, and it worked quite well, I've been told. So yeah, it's a nice maneuver. Again, most of the time we know where the enemy is going to be, so in theory you should be approaching the battlefield with your proper front already out. But it's a nice maneuver to know, I must admit. It is quite nice when it comes together. Any other remarks or questions about this before we move on?
Yeah, just in terms of when you do a quicker movement, I think it's tournée is the only time you actually kind of almost run.
Tournée, you quick march. You quick march in the tournée, and it's automatic. There isn't an order given. It's just as soon as you turn into the new direction. We will see this later on. It's one of the maneuvers that we're going to talk about. That is quick time. The regulations say there's only ordinary and quick. Running is counter to good military practice, but okay.
Just want to say, I had a look in the book. Sorry, I couldn't find anything about a Veeks, but it does say that the chief of battalion, the chief of platoon, shall direct the formation of the alignment in proportion as the men of the front rank arrive on the line.
Okay.
So whether that's a Veeks or not, I'm not sure. But
at the battalion level, it'll probably be the whole battalion will get a fix from the battalion commander. But okay, thanks for that, Rory. Any other remarks?
Greg Renault here. I just have one about teaching it. I've not understood why this complex maneuver occurs where it does. I've always found it easier to teach forming line in front of the direction of line of march. Difficult part is from following somebody and from touching somebody. Each file has to separate out and know where they're supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
If you teach that forming line to the front first, and then you add the change in direction to the right, I found it much easier for people to understand. You're only introducing one new concept at a time. So I teach them in an order different than they occur in the manual, although the manual is supposed to be for teaching.
Mm. The flank marching where you front form the platoon to your front. We'll be seeing that a bit later on. The manual explains that is actually to form, you can either do it by sections or by platoons, and that is to form a column. To form a line of battle, you've got to swing it either to the left or to the right. The line of battle, forming line of battle to the front is a battalion maneuver, and it is it is so complex for today that I'm not even gonna go down and explain how it's supposed to work. So if you are doing, and I can totally understand why you're doing so. If you're front forming the platoon on the march from a flank march and then wheeling it around, it works. I've got no problem in that sense with it. However, once you start, if you can imagine, Greg, you're now on the continent or even in North America, and you're not an independent platoon. You are the second or third platoon of a 4-platoon battalion, and you're marching by the flank, and the enemy turns up on your right side. You can't have the entire battalion front form platoon and then wheel into and wheel on the opposite side of the line of battle, because you'll still be back to front. So yes, what you're doing, I think, is totally comprehensible in the sense that I'm the only one here, or I've run my own platoon, the men know this, and it will get me into the position with my front flank in front, with my right flank to the right and my left flank to the left. It works, it gets there. Okay, I get it. However, it's an adaptation to your situation as opposed to what was intended for battalions of infantry at this time to maneuver. If they had to do it like that, with 8 companies or with 8 platoons, it would get quite messy. Whereas this is just very quick. You've got the other platoons coming behind, and as they're coming in, you've already started a firing fight on that line. But I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
As a quick comment, if you only had fusiliers in your platoon, yes, you could cheat and just have them face the other way. If you've got your voltigeurs and your grenadiers at the ends, if you just turn around, everybody is reversed. And that's the reason to do it this way. I agree. If you only had, 24 fusiliers standing there, everyone looks the same to the audience, there's nobody else. Yes, you could just do an about face as a quick expedient.
Again, basics. The basics are, the platoon commander is on the right, covering sergeant is behind him, second section commander in the supernumerary rank, left-hand guide in the supernumerary rank on the left-hand side. The front rank for fighting is always the front, must always be the front rank, the real front rank, and the right must always be on the right when you're fighting. That's the basics. It's almost as basic as your full cadres. The rest is just not entertained in the regulations. As far as adapting to situations of reenactment with our different sizes and all that, I can't comment. I suppose each situation is unique. Each situation may be depending on who is. Are they people that you've worked with before? Have you practiced this? Have you not practiced this? I totally understand, totally get it. But I'd always say it's best to teach them the basics and to stay true to the basic principles, simply because when you come to form bigger units or form small battalions, you could do battalion school with let's see, with 50 men divided into 4 platoons of just a single section. You can actually start to do battalion school. But if you don't respect the principles, then in that case, it gets complicated afterwards to try and work things out. Okay?
Excuse me. I checked about the fixed order. It doesn't say anything. It only say when the instructor see all aligned, give the order to the chef of platoon to take his place. Then nothing else.
Yes, Rory did say that, and I said afterwards, it may be the battalion commander in battalion school that gives the order fixe, but we're not here to talk about the battalion school for the moment. But yes, in the platoon school, there is no fixed order given. He just makes sure everybody is dressed correctly. Yes. Any other remarks?
I think you're good to go.
Perfect. Moving on. So, front forming platoon from files. This one is what the formation Greg was talking about, I suppose. Can you confirm, Greg? Is this it?
Yes.
Yes, this is for front forming platoon from files. So the order will be par peloton en ligne, by platoon into line, marche. Okay, and at which point, have you seen the covering sergeant? Number 1, he has continued to march at the normal step, and he has continued to march in the same initial direction, but it's everybody else around him that has moved. This is why the guide's so important. You now, if this was a battalion, you would have a line of covering sergeants following each other at the correct distance and at the correct tempo. When this maneuver happens, at the word marche, in this case, the men quarter turn to the left, take the quick time and come up one after another into position on the new line, taking their dressing as they come up on that covering sergeant. They continue to take their dressing until the last man has come into line, at which point the platoon commander, when he starts the maneuver, when he orders march, he moves out, as you can see in the film. He moves out towards the left. He has to aim to be at the front of the formed platoon, and he is not looking at the front. During this entire maneuver, he is looking at the ranks. He is looking directly at the men, so he's walking backwards. Once that last left-hand man is in position, the platoon commander shouts, "Guide à gauche." Left-hand guy, you are now dressing to the left, at which point the left-hand guide comes out of the supernumerary file, positions himself on the left, and the dressing is now on the left. Even the covering sergeant has to dress to this new guide. Okay? The rule is, if you are marching in a column with the right, so the grenadiers, if they are marching in front, the dressing is on the left. And if you are marching with the left in front, the voltigeurs, you are taking your dressings to the right. Okay? So again, I repeat, during the entire deployment, the captain marches out so that he is in the center of that formed up platoon, and he is watching this entire thing happening. So he's marching behind. Once he sees the left-hand man in place, he shouts "Guide à gauche," and the left-hand guide pops out on the left, and everybody takes their dressing from him. And again, the entire maneuver is done at the quick time, but it's not ordered. The soldiers just take quick time and move up into their position. Any questions about this particular one? Okay, I think we're good to go. Therefore, this is front forming platoons from files. Of course, you can front form sections. A platoon in the French army is composed of 2 sections in this period. So if the column you want to form is not big enough for your platoon to pass, you can front form the sections. This one is exactly the same principles. It's just 1 or 2 different things, and you get the second section commander gets involved. So the initial order will be par section en ligne, by sections into line. March. At this point, at the word march, the captain, the platoon commander, as usual, faces about, and he is moving out towards the right so that he is in the center of his section. He is watching this all happen. But at the same time, at the order march, the second section commander, he is the white square with the number 2 in Roman figures. He comes to the front of the second section. Like the captain, he's marching backwards, looking at what's happening in front. Once the left-hand man of the section has arrived into line, for the first section, the platoon commander will order, again, guide à gauche, because we are marching to the right. The covering sergeant, in this instance, will have to run, so he turns and runs in front of the entire advancing section to position himself on the left. You can see him, there you go. Same thing, second section. When the second section commander sees the left-hand man in place, he also calls guide à gauche, in which case the left-hand guide who has wheeled up in his place in the supernumerary rank, when he hears guide à gauche, he steps up and he now becomes the left-hand guide for the second section. So in a column of platoons, you will see it's a column of platoons because, like all columns, you will have a commanding officer, an officer in the front. For the platoon, you will have the 2 guides on either side, but the dressing is only one of the guides. In a column of section, you will again see an officer in front of the sections, but you will only see 1 guide, and that's the side where everybody should be dressing. So again, if it is the right that's marching in front, the grenadier, the right side of the battalion, everybody should be dressing on the left. The guides should be out on the left, or it is the guide on the left if you're a column of section platoons. And if it is the voltigeurs in front, the left in front, it is the right. So the guides in the section of the column of sections should all be on the right-hand side. And if it's a column of platoons, it is the guide that's on that right-hand side that everybody has to dress to. But otherwise, it's exactly the same maneuvers for the men. They just come up one after another in the quick time and take up their new positions. Any questions about this particular movement? Very well, we'll move on. Right, so there is another way of forming a column of section. We've seen forming a column of section on the march from a flank march. If you are in a line of battle and you want to form a column of sections, you can do this at the halt. First thing that needs to be ordered is whether this can also be done at a platoon level. It doesn't change anything, it's the same basics, but I've showed you the most complicated one to start. So par section à droite will be the command. At this point, the platoon commander comes out and stands in front facing the center of the first section. The second platoon commander comes out he takes the file, the command file, which is closest. So most of the time it will be the command file of the platoon that's on the left. He comes out, again, stands in front of second section, facing the men. The next order will be march, and it will be for everybody to start at the same time. At march, the right-hand man of each section, so this is where the corporals stand, the right-hand man of each section instantly turns, he doesn't wheel, he turns instantly into the new direction. All the other men are wheeling, so touching the pivot man and looking out to the wing that's moving. At the same time, the captain backs up, if you will, and he has to get himself into the position where he is facing the shoulders, the left shoulder of the pivot man that turns, because this will be the new line, and he has to position himself in such a way that the guide will be able to go between him and the wheel that's being executed. So he has to judge it. When the wheel of the section arrives 2 paces away from forming a perpendicular line, the captain shouts, halt, and the second section commander does the same things for his sections. At halt, the covering sergeant, if it's a column section, the covering sergeant comes up, places his left elbow against the chest of the captain. The captain, since he's looking at that pivot man that hasn't moved, makes sure that the shoulders are lined up. The left-hand guide, he'll be doing the same thing when the second section calls halt. When the second section calls halt, the left-hand guide comes out and puts his left arm against the chest of the captain, and the captain makes sure he is in line with the pivot man of that particular section. When both officers are happy, they step out, they step backwards 3 or 4 paces, and they call à gauche alignement, left dress. At this point, the entire platoon section dresses to the guide that's been positioned. Once the alignment is good enough, the captains and the second section commander shouts, fixe, fixe, everybody looks to the front, and the 2 officers go and stand in front of their respective sections. Okay, again, I want to take this opportunity once more. A dressing should never finish on the dressing point. Even here, 2 paces, 1 paces before you arrive on the new line, halt so that the men dress and don't overshoot the mark. Okay. Any questions about this one?
Looks like you can go.
Excellent. Let's carry on. Okay, so we're now in our column of sections, whether we formed it on the march from a flank march or from a line of battle at the halt. We now have to be able to move to the left and to the right. In this case, we have a column of sections with the right in front because the guide is on the left, and the battalion commander, because we always suppose it's part of a column, wishes the sections to wheel out towards the right. So this is called a change of direction opposite the pivot being the guides. It's the same rules apply for columns of platoons, okay? It doesn't change, it's just a wider front. Therefore, if it's on the opposite side of the guide, remember, the guide must always march the same length of pace and at the same tempo. Okay, so in this case, because the guide is on the wheeling flank, when the wheel happens, he'll continue with the same length and the same pace of step, but he'll just start wheeling round. And all the other men in the rank have to adapt the length of their pace to where they are in the line. So the closer you are to the opposite side of the guide, the shorter steps you will take. A lot of people, when they do this, think that the man, the soldier on the right, he is immobile. The film here was very difficult for Jacob to be able to clearly show it. That man on the right during this wheel does not stay in a fixed spot. He is continuing to move to the front and turn at the same time. The regulations say that man has to imagine that on his right, there is a stick and he is going around a stick. So he has to take tiny steps. He has to adapt to the wheeling flank, but he must continue moving forward and turning at the same time. Why? Because if he stays on a fixed point, the section behind him, or the platoons, if it's a column of platoon behind him, is going to come ram him. And afterwards, we're going to lose all the dressing and all the distances.
Just get out of the way.
Yeah, well, he has to adapt. So when the men, when they're doing this maneuver, they're taking their direction from the wheeling flank. So you can't go past the wheel. You shouldn't be going past that guide, but they have to feel on the inside. They have to feel the man inside. That's the man on the right in this case, but they're looking from time to time. I would personally say looking out all the time might not be such a bad idea. The regulations say they shouldn't be. They should just be looking from time to time. But if you feel more comfortable looking out, do it. I don't see a problem with it. And another thing that's important, the regulations clearly state that during this movement, Jacob couldn't do it on the film, but during this movement, the center of the platoon or of the sections will bend inwards. There will be a bend. It will never be a straight line, and the regulations say it will happen. It is totally fine. It is accepted. It is not a ramrod straight wheel. So accept the bend. For those of you who arrived just before the start of the lecture, there was a picture for a plate of this maneuver at the beginning, and you did see it does illustrate a slight bend, an inward bend in that center. Okay. Any questions about this? I think this is probably the way most people wheel anyway, correct? I'll take that as a yes. So there's no questions about this. So this is wheeling opposite the pivot. Okay, opposite the pivot. However, what happens if we want to opposite on the side of the pivot? I'll let you watch this first of all. Okay, so it's not a conversion. The other one was à droite conversion. This is tourner à gauche. So again, you can tourner à droite and you can converse to the left. It just depends on which side the guide is, depending on whether you are marching with the right in front or the left in front. Here, because the right is in front, it's a tourner. Again, why do they do it differently? Why don't they just wheel? That would be the simplest thing, right? No, remember, the guide, the guide must walk the same length and the same tempo of pace. If we just wheeled on the left here, the guide being the opposite, the pivot flank, the wheeling flank, he would be obliged to take little steps like the soldier had to in the other one. But he's the guide. He has to keep the same length of step and the same tempo. Therefore, whenever wheelings are done on the side of the guide in column, we do a tournée. So what happens? you have a marker that will already be indicating to the guide which direction. It doesn't have to be a 90-degree angle. It can be any degree. Here, I've just done it 90 so that you can see the full effect. At tourner à gauche, 2 or 3 paces before arriving to the wheeling point, marche, and at marche, instantly, the guide snaps into the new direction without altering the length of his pace nor the tempo, and just continues marching on. The soldiers, in the meantime, in this case, will half turn to the right, automatically take quick step, the quick time, and one after another come up into the new line, taking their dressing on the guide as they come up. During this entire maneuver, of course, the captain has turned around to look at what's going on. Okay, he doesn't have to, but it's always good to have a look what's going behind you at this point, but it's not a requirement, it's just a recommendation. So, just to resume, when you're marching in column, be it a column of platoons or a column of section, if you are wheeling opposite the side of the guide, opposite the pivot, you do a conversion, in which case it's a wheel, and the bend in the middle is allowed, and the man on the extremity that's pivoting must not do it on the spot. He must imagine he's going around a stick. And if you are wheeling on the side of the guide, it is a tournée, and one after another, the men come up once they've completed their half turn into the new line. Okay? The basis being that the guide never changes his steps, never changes the length or tempo of his steps. Okay. Any questions about this? Or has anybody here seen this for the first time? Yep, Rudy. Nope.
No, I don't see any questions.
I can see Rudy has apparently lifted his hand up, according to this.
Unmute. Okay, now you can hear me, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, now I can hear you. Go ahead, Rudy.
Okay, since you're on a tournée, you're doing a pivot to the left in this case, correct?
Correct. Here it's a tournée à gauche, yeah.
Does the commander have to concern himself with keeping everybody in a correct pace? That is, if you give the command on the left foot to tournée, and then the execution, command of execution would be on the left foot, then the right foot would step forward and pivot on the right foot to turn left. Do you concern yourself as the commander to make sure you give that marche on the left foot when you're going to the left, so you get the right foot to pivot?
The regulations state that all commands of march can be done, and that's all maneuvers can be done on the left or the right foot. However, I see what you're saying. For me, the ideal I have found is, and the guide will thank you for this, is try as best as you can to give that march just as he's about to step out with a foot. So he doesn't have to alternate his step in the middle of it. However, this depends where the marker to turn is, okay? Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm looking at it like a parade ground, staying in step. Because if you don't give the command on the left foot and you're pivoting to the left, you have to say march on the left foot, then your right foot steps forward and you pivot on the right foot turning to the left. That way everybody stays in step. Otherwise you will have confusion as far as staying in step is concerned.
Yeah, I see what you mean. At the same time, everybody else is moving up in quick time. Okay. So they're not at the same step. And to be honest, because it's there's only one guide per platoon, if he notices he's in the wrong step, he can quickly change step without it being a major faux pas. But yes, why not? There is nothing saying you can't do it that way. That's just not the only way, let's say. And yes, as you can see, the ranks do dislocate in this one. Yeah. Any other remarks or questions? Okay, we'll move on. So halting and then forming into line. So we've seen from a flank march how to form a line of battle when the enemy is on the wrong side. In our example here, the enemy on the wrong side would be on the right. But here, the enemy has been kind enough to position himself on the left, on our true front. Therefore, when we arrive, we just halt the column with halt. The next order will be à gauche en bataille, to the left into battle, into line of battle. March. At that point, at the word march, the left-hand soldier of each section automatically turns to face the new front. So basically that man's chest will be up against the right hand, the right elbow of the guides. You can just see it here, just afterwards. The entire section then wheels. The guides are not moved at this point around. The second section commander and the platoon commander, having at march turned around, are marching backwards and watching their respective sections wheel up. Again, when the wheeling flank of the section is 2 paces away from the line, halt is given. When the second section commander gives halt, his job is finished. He just goes back to his position in the supernumerary rank in the rear of the platoon. When the platoon commander gives halt, he will then move out and place himself. This is why those 2 men who turn instantly, their shoulders are showing the line to the captain. He will place himself on that line in his correct position, and he will order à droite, alignement for the whole platoon. The entire platoon dresses up on him. When he is happy, he will order fixe. At fixe, the soldiers look straight in front. However, the guides don't move, because in battalion school, when you have lots of other platoons that are doing the same thing as you, until that line is nice and straight, he might need those guides. So the battalion commander would give the order, guide à vos places, guides to your battle positions, and in which case everybody would go back to their positions. So the left-hand guide would go to the rear supernumerary rank on the left-hand side of his platoon, and the covering sergeant would go back behind the platoon commander. If you're doing this maneuver on your own, you would, as a platoon commander, still need to give the order, guide à vos places, for the guides to go back to their correct positions. Okay, and you are in position, a line of battle ready to start. So again, we see again, for the dressing, it is not on the line that you halt. You always halt everybody 2 paces, 3 paces away, then you dress the line. For the dressing here, like when we formed a column, it is the shoulders of the pivot man that turns instantly. That is the reference point for the respective commanders to place the guide or to place themselves, and as this case may be. Any questions or remarks about this one? Very well, we will continue. Right, this one, bizarrely, the bifiles on the right into battle, that seems to be fairly straightforward to teach once people have got their heads around it. But this one, for some reason, seems to be the most difficult thing, in France anyway, to teach the men. In this case, you are seeing in the film a platoon, which is considered part of a column of platoon. How do we know it's a column of platoon? Because both guides on the extremities of the men. If it was a column of sections, there would only be a guide on one flank, but not of the other of each section. So you're marching along in column of platoon, and there is a big tree or a rock, or in reenactment, there's probably a gate that's slightly narrower than the front of your column. Now you could halt, wheel out to form line of battle, face to the right flank and go in by a flank march, but that's going to take you a hell of a long time if you've got a few platoons in your battalion, or even if you're a solitary platoon. That's still going to be a lot longer to do than to just break files to the rear so that your front clears the obstacle in front of you. So the orders are always, you give the number, une file, you always give the side, de droite on the right. So une file de droite en arrière, marche, one file on the right to the rear, march. And of course, it's always the leftist most we're talking about. Once the men break off at marche, the men, so if we take this, if we consider we're going one file on the left to the rear, march. So une file de gauche en arrière, marche. At march, that file marks time. When the second rank passes each man, the man half right's face and moves up behind the rest of the platoon. Okay, so when that second rank man that's marking time sees the second rank go past him, he automatically goes. So he'll be starting off a little bit sooner than the first rank man, and he must position himself behind the second file from the left that remains. Okay, basically the second rank man, if you look at the image on the left, it's easy to see. You can see blue, yellow, left. And when they break off, can you see that blue, yellow, and left are all behind each other on the left? Their rear rank men are next to them, but the sequence is still maintained. So the leftist most file of the platoon breaking off will always be the one furthest at the back. And more you break, the more you shift inside. And the guide, even if it's in this case, it's the dressing guide, he just closes up the gap to the files that are left, that remain in line. While this happens, of course, the captain turns around and has a look. He's turned around to give the order, 3 files to the rear, in this case, 3 files to the rear, march. Once it's executed and he is happy, he just faces back to the front. Okay. Before I go any further with any more explanations, is the diagram clear? You don't see it because I haven't color coded the film. I couldn't color code it, but is the diagram clear? Can you understand where each man is going? So we have people who have lifted their hands, but I don't know what their names are.
Okay, we've got Pat has a yes. Avu has a yes. Matthew Groves, clear for me.
Are we absolutely certain? Just as a tip, the simplest way I have found to teach this is to do it at the standstill. Physically take the man, place them in all their different, so break off file one after another, all the way from one flank to the other, then throw them all out without moving. Don't do it on the move with the people who you are teaching. Do it at the standstill. And always remind them, you see who is in front of you. You see who is next to you. That's always the guy. The guy in front has always got to be that guy. And the guy next to you is always the same guy. And you're just moving across and moving backwards. Breaking files doesn't have to be 1 or 2 files, and it doesn't have to be all on the same side. You could have maybe a big tree hiding the progression of your column on the left and a big rock on the right. So you could give the order, for example, 2 fils de gauche en arrière, 2 fils de gauche et 4 fils de droite en arrière marche. You can throw back 2 files on one side and 4 on the other if necessary. Okay. This is a lot simpler than just flank marching everywhere.
Can I make a comment?
Of course you can.
I agree with you. This is very difficult to get the men to learn it and remember it.
Yep.
And it's most of the maneuvers require the officers, the sergeants, and the guides to know what they're doing, and the men just follow a leader. But with this one and think for themselves. And there's the added complication, but more often than not, you will take people from the left and not from the right. So it means that the tallest men never do it. So the more repetition and things you're doing, you've actually got that perhaps 30% of your men don't know it at all. And it's just the little men at the far end that need to learn it. And they don't get enough chance to do it with repetition and things. And really, it's something that it's incredibly useful to do. But the moment that you want to use it, you discover that the men at the end don't understand what they're doing. So it needs to be done every day, every morning. Do this as your morning repetitions. Otherwise, when you need it most, your men can't do it. That's
Absolutely, Martin. I totally agree. And as I would say, it's not necessary to do this on the march. On the march, they're thinking already, where am I going and all this. Do it at the standstill and place them and say, look who's next to you. Look who's in front of you. Break off another file. Who's next to you? It's the same guy? Yes. And in front it's the same guy? Yes. What's so hard about that? Just remember where you're going in this and then do it on the other side as well. But yeah, it should be a staple part of any drill program, I find. Any other observations or remarks or questions? Okay, we will move on. Right, marching in the column of route. Okay, there is. I haven't got a film, and Jacob hasn't got a film of this. Basically, this lesson 4, article 2, everything you've just seen, the soldiers do it all again, but in a column of route. Column of route is basically when you're marching for long distances, you're not on the field of battle, you're not going to be engaged. So it's in essence an easier way to march. So the orders to be given will be pas de route, march at ease. At that order, the second rank will space itself out from, I don't remember the distance, I think it's 2 paces. Each rank takes 2 paces, one from the other. So the first rank just continues to march at the ordinary time. The second rank continues to march at the ordinary time, but takes shorter paces so that the distance of 2 paces is made. If there is a third rank, that third rank likewise takes 2 paces distance. Once the captain has seen that the ranks are at the correct distance from one another, he orders l'arme au bras. So the order will be pas de route, marche. So you're still marching in step, but the ranks are separating. You continue to march in step then until the order l'arme à volonté. Sorry, not l'arme au bras, l'arme à volonté. So carry the arm at will, or slope arms as I've translated it here. But it's not a strict slope arms. L'arme à volonté is the signal for the soldiers now that they don't need to march at the same step. You can break step. You don't have to carry the weapon in a particular way. The regulations say that you carry the musket on one shoulder or the other. You can change when you want, with one hand or the other. It's at your discretion, and you can change several times. The only thing they ask is that the barrel remains in the air. This is normal. You don't want to stab the face of the guy that's behind you. I do get asked sometimes, can we sling the muskets? There is nothing, it's not in the regulations, but there is nothing stopping the captain or the battalion commander telling the men you can sling them if they want. But strictly speaking, it is one hand or 2, one shoulder or the other, and you break step. And once you're in this column of route, you do every single maneuver we've just seen, but in column of route, maintaining the distances between the ranks. One of the big differences, if I can just say this, one of the big differences is once you're in the column of route, there are no more orders. For example, to turn to the right or the left, you don't say à droite conversion marche or tourner à gauche marche. The officer only warns the men that they are turning. So it will be, for example, if I give my case, you're marching along, you can see that you're going to turn left a little bit. So I would turn to the guide, the sergeant being the guide, and I would say, right, at that tree, you're going to go in the direction of the church. And that's it. And then he turns, and all the men, one after another, turn, half turn actually, to be exact, into the new direction. There is no more wheeling, it's half turning from then on. But there is no order of marche. It's just a warning, and the men carry it out. And the men continue to, and you continue to march like this. And when you want to stop marching at ease and you want to start marching in step, you give the order serrez vos rangs, tighten your ranks. Marche. At this point, everybody carries arms and takes the ordinary step, and the second rank just takes slightly longer paces to catch up and close the ranks. And then you can start giving orders again. And another thing is in columns, it's a general thing. Whenever the order halt is given, if you are not with the arm on the shoulder, if you're not at the portée, if you're at the l'arme au bras or la descendez armes, the trail arms, at halt, the men automatically carry arms in the French army. There is no order given. Does this seem clear?
Just to add, Mark, the distance is in the text, the distance between the ranks is 3 feet. That's mean one step and a half.
So it's a meter in our modern measurements?
I have no idea. In French, he said 3 pieds de distance.
Yeah, 3 pieds. Yeah, it's about a meter 0.3. I didn't put it here, but I put a meter.
A question?
Yes.
In French, you said the commander may give sling arms, but what exactly is that in French, sling arms?
That it's not an order. It would just be something you would say, like I would say it. Si vous voulez porter vos armes à la bretelle, portez-les où? Armes aux bretelles, si vous voulez. So armes à la bretelle. Bretelle being the sling. So I would just tell them it's not an order anymore, as it says. It's just a warning.
Hotel.
Bretelle. L'arme à la bretelle.
Merci.
Voilà. But if you say that, they might all do it. So you might have to add, if you want, si vous voulez at the end. Any other questions? Okay. Just to point out, I forgot to point it out, when you're marching in a column of route, you are no longer doing 76 paces a minute, you're doing 85 to 90 steps a minute, according to the regulation. So it's a more normal way of walking, let's say. Okay. And of course, if you break files, and they teach them how to break files in a column of route, you've got to make sure the man doesn't slip behind the front rank. They've got to go behind. It's still the same principle. They go behind the second rank. It's still the same position, and they have to lock up. Moving on. From column of platoons to column of sections on the march. Okay, so you're in your column of platoons. And there is a bridge, but it's not big enough to cross for your entire platoon, but it is big enough for a section. In that case, you would give the order rompez le peloton. Again, it's okay. The men, the company commander turns round, orders rompez le peloton. This is all done at the march. At that order, the second section commander has to run around the platoon and get himself facing the center of the second platoon in front. So as you can see here, it's a nice jog. While the second section commander is doing this, the platoon commander, he just shifts to be in front of the first platoon. When the second platoon, the second section commander arrives, he will say, marquez le pas. Once that's done, the platoon commander orders marche. So at that single march by the platoon commander is for the second section to start marking time. It's their execution order. So the second section commander will say, marquez le pas, prepare to mark time. And the platoon commander shouts, marche, to set it going. They mark time. Once that marche is given, the covering sergeant, who is in a column of section on the right-hand side of the platoon, he now has to shift automatically to the left-hand side of first section. So just like we saw earlier, he runs out in front and places himself on the left. Meanwhile, second section, first section, of course, is always moving forward. Nothing's changed. Second section marks time. When the second section commander sees that the second rank of first section is about to clear his front, he orders oblique à droite, marche. So he has to oblique his section behind. He already has the left-hand guide out on the left, so he doesn't have to worry about that. Once the left-hand guide at his section move in behind and his left-hand guide is now in line with the covering sergeant in front, he just says en avant marche. So very important for the second section commander. Don't do everything in one go. It's not oblique à droite marche. As soon as marche is given, oblique à droite, marche, go. Just before your guide gets into place, en avant, marche. And then everybody just faces to the front. Everybody, the officers face to the front once more. So again, rompez le peloton. Second section commander comes out and says, marquez le pas to second section. Upon hearing this, platoon commander shouts, marche. Covering sergeant shifts from the right of first section to the left, and everybody continues marching forward. Second section commander gives oblique à droite. As soon as the second rank of first section clears the front rank of second section, marche. Second section obliques to the right. As soon as the left-hand guide is about to get behind the guide, the covering sergeant in front, en avant, marche. And you've now formed your column of section from a column of platoon on the march. Any questions about this one? Okay. This one is probably the most physical thing that the second section commander has to do. Moving on. So you've crossed your bridge. On the other side of the bridge, once more, it is big enough for you to form up into a column of platoons. So why not do it? At that point, the order is former le peloton. Front form your platoon. The platoon commander will say to first section, oblique à droite, straight afterwards. Second section commander doesn't give an order, but warns his, he warns his section to keep moving forward. So it's not an order, you'll just say, lads, just keep moving forward, or don't listen, just keep moving forward. And at marche, second section, first section will now oblique out towards the right. While this is happening, of course, the platoon commander, he's facing the men in what, as always, and seeing what's happening, because he has to time the marquez le pas at the marche of marquez le pas. He has to time that just when his guide, so that's the covering sergeant that's on the left of the platoon, is in front of the last right-hand file of second section. If he lets him, if he lets the covering sergeant out so that he is next to him, he's too far. He wants the covering sergeant to be facing this left-hand file here. Once they've obliqued and the covering sergeant is in front of that particular file of second section, he would order marche. So just before, marquez le pas. Okay, now's the moment. Marche. At that point, first section now just marks time, and the covering sergeant automatically runs out in front and shifts back to the right flank. Just as second section is about to lock in with first section, the platoon commander shouts marche for the first section to start off, and the whole go off together. If they don't go off exactly at the same, so it does happen sometimes, they're not at the same pace, he can rectify it because he's looking out at the men at the same time. And of course, again, question, you are marching with the right in front, so once you form into this column of platoon, where is your guide?
Has to move
Left.
Left, good, left. So everybody should be taking their dressing on the left. And of course, once you said the marche, when the two sections are locked together, that's when second section commander again has to sprint around and takes his position in the back of in the supernumerary rank. So that's to form up. So you now know how to break a column of platoons into a column of section, and from a column of section, you know how to form a column of platoons all on the march. Easy, isn't it? Any questions?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
So why the two commander of the different section, why they don't have to command the oblique? So because we have sometimes some soldier with the head in the clouds, so and they don't remember they have to go oblique. Why the commander doesn't have to command this?
Yeah, yes, he does. He does have to say oblique. If you look at the picture on the left, top left-hand corner, all the obliques are said before. The obliques are commanded.
Fine, thank you.
No problem.
I think we have a question from Pat.
Yeah, I've got a question. I mean, if you do these maneuvers, if you do the rampe and then reforme, and then rampe again and reforme, I mean, because one of the sections is always obliquing to the right. So if you do several rampe and forme, isn't the front, when you have the full line or the full peloton, hasn't it kind of shifted over the distance of a section every time you rampe reforme?
Well, when you form up from the column of platoon, I can see that being an issue. Hold on, let me have a think. Yeah, there is an ever so slight shift, but as long as the guides are all following each other, that is not an issue. And when you form up again into a column of platoon like here, you'll notice that the left-hand guide has not shifted from his direction. The left-hand guide is moving forward all the time.
Yeah,
So
but the left-hand guide, he's in the second section. But if you were in this column of platoons,
yes, and you want to split it.
You do a rampe, and then so the first section keeps going straight, but the second section obliques to the right to go behind.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
It's the first section that obliques to the right again. So I mean, you've got a total shift of one section distance.
Yeah.
Right.
You are correct. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, if you wanted to, having formed up here, if you wanted to break into a column of sections again, then in that case it would be the right-hand guide that he's not going to shift from that position. But yes, in essence, you are coming across again. But yeah, you're right. It is one section that's completely going over. But if you look at where the right-hand guide, the covering sergeant, is now, when you rampe, it will still be there that you'll be dressing. So the front, yes, you're not covering your whole front, but when you branch out, it will still be the same distance and the same place as you were before you started crossing that bridge. I see what you mean. I do get what you're saying, but in theory, all you're doing, you still have the same frontage. You still have this frontage as a platoon, but when you rompe, you're doing this, and when you form, you're doing this. So in essence, yeah, you are shifting out a little bit, but everybody is shifting along with you. And if you
Yeah,
need
but
to,
if you're supposed to be facing, say your command is to, you've got the 33rd line British in front of you.
yeah,
They're not moving, and you have to cross the bridge. I mean, you're not, you're
yeah,
not completely lined up with a non-moving object in front of you.
yeah, I see what you mean, but I've got again crossing bridges in the heat of a battle situation. I don't know whether it would have been done like this, or or if they would have charged across or whatever. But this is again, this is supposed to be for marching along. It's a general situation, let's say. Probably, I would argue if you're in that situation, you should be using, if possible, columns of attack and not a column of maneuver. But again, that's considerations for battalion school. So yes, there is a slight shift, but it's not important, because as long as the guides are all following each other, if you need to get back towards the left, you just make sure that first guide at the front, he changes direction, you do a tournée, and everybody else will be doing tournées after him. So it's not a big problem, let's say. But you are right, there is a wave, let's say.
Okay, two things. One, just to let you know, it's about 12:30, and two, we have a question from Giorgio.
Okay, Giorgio.
Yeah, it's just about to put a little, to push a little further the Patrick reflection. I think Article 3 and Article 2, breaking and reform the platoon, is the most theoretical episode we have in the reglement, because really it's depends what the ground is when we use it. The other things is almost the time the same as on the book. This one, I think, is really, you have a lot of constraint from the ground. It's that happen all the time. And if you have your bridge on the right, in front of which section of your platoon the bridge is opening, you have to choose, and maybe sometime you do movements, like you're gonna move on oblique the first section and on the second one in function of what you need to do. I think every one of us had done that with his platoon on the battlefield.
Yeah, but again, you are correct. But these are not. This column is not supposed to be a battle column. This is a column of maneuvering, so it's getting into position, but it's not a column to be used actively necessarily in the. You can do it by all means, but the column of attack is normally the column you should be using, because it's easier to maneuver, and also it's easier to deploy, and you can start firing. Whereas if you're going to deploy into line of battle from a column of platoon, or God forbid a column of sections, that's going to take a hell of a lot of time. So these are really for movements, and also this is not necessarily a movement that needs to be, for example, a bridge. It can be you're arriving in a town, so the streets are narrower, so to move through the town you decide to do a column of section, and once you go out of the town, you can move up into a column of platoon. You could even move up into a column of division if the ground allows you to. But I see what you mean. This is not maybe something to do in front of an enemy waiting to put fire into you. I totally agree. You should have deployed your battalion on the battlefield into line before engaging the enemy or into a column of attack. But that's the school of the battalion where they start to give tactical consideration. To be exact, it's the part of the manual which is called l'évolution des lignes, the evolutions of the line. That's when they really start to explain these sorts of detail. At the moment, within the school of the platoon, this is really just teaching the soldiers how to move about. But I understand what you're saying. Circumstances sometimes mean that we do something that might not be necessarily in the manual, but we need to get the job done. I agree. I totally agree. I understand. Any other remarks? Okay, we'll move on. Almost there, gentlemen. Counter march. This is definitely not to be used in front of the enemy. And moving backwards also in a fight is not recommended. If you need to fall back, break and fall back and form up. But the counter march is if you're in a column. In this case, it's a column of platoon. It can work also as column of sections, but I've only included the column of platoon in this one. So you're at a dead end, or maybe you should have taken left at Albuquerque instead of taking right. So instead, what do you need to do with this column? Counter march. So the orders: contre marche par le peloton, par le flanc droite, at which case everybody faces out to the right, except the left-hand guide. The left-hand guide does an about face. He is now the dressing point. He has kept the place where all the guides were dressed when you were marching to the front. Marche. At this point, everybody wheels to the left, in this case, towards the guide who hasn't moved. When the covering sergeant arrives vis-a-vis the guide that stayed in its place, halt, front. The captain then comes up on that guide and calls à droite, alignement. Everybody dresses on the guide. And at fixe, the captain goes back to the front because this is a column. And the left-hand guide goes back on the left flank, and the right-hand guide just steps in on the right flank. Very simple. Any questions about this one? Excellent. Okay, so again, it's a column, so you need to make sure your guides are back on the wings. Right, okay. Excuse me, I thought I'd killed the sound. There we go. So, lesson 6, Article 5, from the right or the left by sections into line. If you thought the first part where you had to go by files into line of battle on the right was confusing, imagine doing this in a column of sections. So, same scenario. The enemy has not been kind enough to be on the left-hand side of us to just halt, wheel into line of battle and start fighting. He's actually appeared to the right, so the opposite side to where we need to be. First order that comes out is sur la droite en bataille, on the right into line of battle. Guide à droite, you need to shift the guides that are on the left to the right. So the guides at that point both shift to the right-hand side of their column, of their sections. Why? Because the next order you need to do is a tournée. And to do a tournée, like I said, it needs to be on the side of the guide. So you need to shift the guide to the other side. You execute a tournée. So that horseman is indicating the new line of battle. The captain is still facing to the front. When the platoon arrives within 2 paces of the new line of battle, the captain shouts, halt. Everybody halts. Automatically, the covering sergeant will come out, stand in front of one of the 3 left-hand side files of his platoon, facing the adjutant on the new line of battle. So they're marking out, the guides are coming out to mark out a straight line. Once he's out in position, the captain goes off on the side and shouts à droite, alignement. Everybody dresses up. If everybody's done their job correctly, the left-hand side, where the covering sergeant is standing, the left-hand side man should have his chest up against the right arm of the covering sergeant. All the while this is happening, you have second section that are passing first section. As soon as they've shifted past, when the guide of the second section is vis-a-vis the left-hand side of first section, the second section commander orders tourner à droite, marche. Everybody turns, marches, and when the left-hand guide arrives to the rear of the left-hand man of first section, he shouts halt. Okay, and then à droite, alignement, everybody dresses to first section, which hopefully in the meantime this has happened, has had time to finish their dressing. I have been in situations where first section has not finished their dressings and it gets a little bit complicated, but you still can get out of it. When second section commander says halt, the left-hand guide comes out and stands vis-a-vis one of the 3 files on the left-hand side of his section, just as you can see here. Halt, à droite, alignement, and then he goes to the rear, fixe. And if the line is straight, the battalion commander will shout, guide à vos places, and everybody goes off into their battle positions and you're ready to fight. So if you thought doing it by files is complicated, it's less complicated to do it by files than to do it this way. But again, why not just halt and fare and wheel to the right? Because if you did that, your left would be on your right would be on your left, and your front rank would be in the second rank, and your second rank would be at the front. You would be back to face. You have to get yourself back into your proper battle position. It's part of the basics. Any questions? Okay. Again, like I said, you can order a copy of the presentation and study this in detail afterwards. We come to the last part of our conference today. This is case studies. So I'll just explain. Oh, sorry.
Somebody has a question. Publius?
Yeah, just a question. The second guide of the second section, when you come to par section en bataille.
Yes, sur la droite en bataille, yes.
Guide, does the guide faces
go on.
faces towards the middle? So the one, yeah.
You see this man?
Yeah.
This man here, that's the instructor, but in a battalion scenario, he would be the adjutant or the adjutant major. So
yeah,
the adjutant and adjutant major would be on each side of a long line. This would be the future line of battle, and they would be facing each other. And the guides, when they come out, they go on that line and they face the adjutant major. They all face towards the right. So, and they make sure they are covering each other so that when you have to dress, the men will dress up to them and the line will be straight.
Okay.
Okay, so if we just look at the film, out he comes, and you see what he's done. He's come out and instantly faced behind. He's faced behind this the covering sergeant. The next platoon, their covering sergeant would also stand here, facing this guy. There's left-hand guide, and so on, all the way down the line.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Okay, gentlemen, this is the last part. This is called the case study. So basically, I've explained a lot of things. It's a lot of information to take on board, I know. I would like you now to do a little bit of talking. I've selected some photos, selected at randoms from several reenacting groups in North America and in Europe. I would like people to volunteer what formation they are seeing. Is the formation correctly done? If it is, if it isn't, sorry, what should they do to rectify it? What do they need to change for it to be correct? Okay, so the first one is the firings. We have two photos. So let's look at the one on the left, first of all. Who would like to have a go at this?
The drummers should be in the rear, shouldn't they?
They should be, but remember where the guides and the officers should be for direct firing in this case. Is this correctly done? Is the officer?
No,
this chap?
No.
Behind.
Where should he be?
At the back.
Behind where the drummers are.
Yeah, he should be 1.3 meters behind the supernumerary rank in the center of his platoon. Exactly. Is there any other thing that's well, you can't see it here, but maybe we can imagine that there is a covering sergeant that has gone back. But if there isn't a covering sergeant, that would also be a mistake. There should be a covering sergeant anyway. On this side, we can see the covering sergeant. I can tell he is one of the guides because he is holding his musket like a sergeant. Is he in the correct position for this firing by platoon, this direct fire?
Yes, he should be next to the rear rank on the right.
He should not be next to the rear rank. He's in the right place. This is his file. He should be in line with the supernumerary. No, supernumerary.
Ah, okay.
The covering sergeant retreats, or in all firings, retreats in line with the supernumerary files. So he may be walking back, or he may be walking up, but in any case, he is doing something that involves going backwards. One or two little pointers. The elbow, the right elbow in firings, always down against the body. The rear rank, when they present, the right leg comes out and touches the left foot of the man to his right. Okay. Now let's have a look at another two photos. So you see, even I do mistakes. This one is wrong. You'll first of all tell me, what is this maneuver supposed to be? What could it be, let's say?
It looks like they're coming back into line of battle from column of platoon or column of section, because they're about to, it looks like the guide is almost stopped and they're about to close shut the line. I might be wrong though.
Mm-hmm. No problem. What can we say? We can see there's a platoon commander here.
It's a faux en arrière, because the guides are at the front. The cercle is at the front.
The Serfield is at the front, correct? Yeah. So it's not firing to the rear; it's marching to the rear in line of the battle.
They've done a faux en arrière. Oh no, they haven't done a faux en arrière. They've done a demi-tour.
We've just done a demi-tour and we're retiring in line of battle. So therefore, yes, my second section commander, he was my second section commander on that day. He stayed in his place in the supernumerary rank and he's just marching backwards. But I have made a mistake. What mistake have I made if this is indeed marching to the rear in line of battle? If this is marching to the rear in line of battle, what should be happening here, roughly?
You should be in line with the back rank.
Your second, supernumerary commander.
You should have your sergeant in front, leading your party.
I'm in the right place. I've come to the front of what is now the front rank, but my covering sergeant, who you can just see behind because you can see his musket betraying him here and his epaulets, he should be in line with him and standing in front of me. Instead, what we did is when we right about faced, I had a moment of panic. He had a moment of panic, and we just quickly swapped places, whereas all he had to do was just turn around and just march out into that line. So, even the best of us do mistakes. On this side, it's a line formation, but what could be added to make it correct? What is missing if this is a line of battle?
The left guide.
Which guide?
On the left-hand side.
The left.
Here? There should be a guide here, you say?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe.
If it is a column, yes, but this is a line of battle. The place of the left-hand guide when it's a line of battle is in the supernumerary rank. But here, something is missing here.
Behind the officer.
There is no covering sergeant. There should be a covering sergeant behind the officer so that when he goes away, the covering sergeant just steps up and takes that position. Okay. Flank marching. Let's start with this side. There is a mistake. What is the mistake?
Platoon commander and covering sergeant on that side.
Yes, well, indeed, there are none. As far as we can see from the photo, there is no covering sergeant, and there is no platoon commander leading it. Where should in this case, where should the covering sergeant be?
Should be
In front of Jim. Is it Jim?
yeah in front of the front
in front of him. This is this is the front rank. I'm sorry, I didn't make that point. This,
yeah.
All right.
in front of him, and the platoon commander should be on the left side.
Correct. So the covering sergeant should be in front of this man, and next to this man should be the platoon commander, and they're all walking in the same direction. Let's shift over to the other side. What is the error here?
He's on the wrong side. If that is the covering sergeant.
Which one? We have two guides here. One of them is right, one of them is wrong.
Which is the front?
This is the front. The front is facing us. This is the left-hand guide. This is the covering sergeant.
So the covering sergeant should be in one pace to his front and 2 paces to his left. So it should be in front of the front rank man on the right, if that makes sense.
Yes, correct. You're correct. The right-hand guide, the covering sergeant, should be in front of this man. Yeah. This man is correct. This is the supernumerary. He's in the supernumerary rank. He's the left-hand guy. He's in his correct position. This guy should be here. And who should be on this side?
The platoon commander.
The platoon commander leading the platoon in whatever direction he wishes it to go.
And Mark?
Yes?
And that last picture on the left.
I'm sorry. Yep.
Okay, you have a corporal here. He's out of position, is he not?
Theoretically, corporal should be here, 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 and next to him. However, being reenactors, I would always say these places should be occupied by veterans, or at least people who know what they're doing. I think we can all agree that just because you wear stripes doesn't necessarily mean you are trained. But so yeah, regulation wise, yeah. Yes,
I have a question.
Can I just comment about that picture on the right?
Yeah,
because I think that the rank on the left is the front rank, so the taller ones.
Yeah.
And then if he is the platoon commander, he's in the correct position, and the sergeant at the back is the sergeant de remplacement, who has stepped forward into the position of the platoon commander.
Oh, you mean they're marching to the left flank?
To the left. Because the taller men are in the front rank.
If that is the case, so if this is the left-hand front rank, the left-hand guide should be in front of this man, and the platoon commander should be in front of the left-hand guide here, and this man, who is the covering sergeant, should be behind him, making sure the officer's spot is safe.
I'm just trying to protect the light infantry.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. This is absolute. We all do mistakes, and to be fair, this day was a particularly hot day. When it gets hot, we do even more mistakes. I certainly do. No judgment. If there weren't photos of people doing mistakes, I would not be able to do case studies with you. It's as simple as that. Any other questions about this? Rudy, I think you had one. Oh, no, you had the corporal's questions. I'm sorry. So I can move on?
Yep.
Perfect. More flank marching. I was at this event. This is the front rank, and they're doing a right flank march. And it's exactly the same here. The front rank is on the side of the wall, and they're marching towards the right. So let's have a look at the simplest one. This photo first. Who would like to comment?
I'm going to start off the batting by saying I think the covering sergeant for the Grenadiers is in the wrong place, but I'm not quite sure whether they should be in front of the front rank man on the flank, or whether they're there.
Okay, just to give the full picture, the platoon commander of this, at this moment, he was the platoon commander. So he is on the side, which is correct. But there should be the covering sergeant here in front of this guy. If you see what I mean, there should be the covering sergeant here. And next to the covering sergeant here should be the platoon commander.
So the platoon commander should be one step forward in that example.
Yes, he should be one step forward with a man in front of this chap.
Okay. And are the voltigeurs committing the same error?
The voltigeurs are, no, I would say this is a worse sin in the sense that here, you imagine there's a supernumerary rank, that's no problem. So the supernumerary rank is here. The officer and his covering sergeant are on this side. Here, what you see is you have this guy who's standing in front of this rank, the second rank. And next to him, you have this guy and another guy behind. And they're all in the supernumerary rank. What's the problem with this?
This guy should be in front of the...
This guy?
Should be in front of the guy.
This guy?
On the left side,
And next to him should be the company commander. Yes, the officer or sergeant. That is the company. The platoon commander does not necessarily need to be an officer. It can be a simple private who knows the job, but normally it's a captain or an officer, correct? And there should be no one here at this level. So in essence, they're back to front. Okay.
So which one do you think is the worst sin? You said the grenadiers or the voltigeurs?
The voltigeurs. There should be no one in the supernumerary rank. Here, no one's in the supernumerary rank. The only sin they've done is they haven't got a covering sergeant. The sergeant is the platoon commander, and he is considering at this moment in time that the right-hand man of the first rank is the covering sergeant. Yes, but you can't do that. You can't do that. You cannot. You cannot just say, "Oh, we don't need cadre." You need minimum 3 cadres if you're just doing things in one section, and you need 4 cadres if you're going to do things in 2 sections. You cannot get away from it. Can
I just add, you need to always remember who is everyone following. If everyone is basically following the man who's at the front and on the right, and they've turned to one side, then suddenly the platoon commander is trying to steer a man who's in the back rank. So that how can the man in the front rank be correct when he's not being steered in the right direction?
Absolutely. I was just about to bring that, but yeah, you're absolutely right. You're not even in the right place for the front rank to be able, they don't have a chance here. They're just going forward. In essence, they're doing what the back rank is doing, but it shouldn't be. So again, the voltigeurs is the worst sin of the 2. Moving on. Right, 2 different things here. Let's start with the photo on the left. Okay. What is the big major sin that you can see here?
There's no guide.
There's no guide, but they do have a section commander or platoon. Since they don't have guides, it's impossible to tell. If there were 2 guides, there would be a column of platoons. If they had 1, it would be a column of sections. But they do have a platoon commander. But yeah, it's not possible. What about this thing?
So the eagle should be either in the rank or behind. I can't remember which way around it is.
The eagle and its guard are part and parcel of the left-hand side of the second section. They are not separate. It is not the color party of a British regiment, which is considered a section unto itself. The men of the color guard and of the eagle are just part and parcel of a section, and they do everything that section is supposed to do. They do not stand in front, they do not stand in the rear, they do not stand in the middle of a column like British colors do. They should, in a column, they should always be on the flank, because they are part of the left-hand side of the second section, if my memory serves me right, of the central platoon. So that's the major sin.
Is there, hang on,
yes.
Is there another section on the right?
Nope. I saw the other bit of the photo. There's just these two, there's the color, and then there's two guides on either side, and then there is a section in front of it, just like the one in the rear here. They're parading like a British infantry battalion.
Okay.
Which is a double sin in this case. As for the photo on the right, the colored photo, what formation is this?
Looks like it's a flank march, potentially.
Potentially, but if it's a flank march, that means they are on 4 ranks, which is impossible.
Okay.
And also, if it's a flank march, the officer shouldn't be at the front, and there should be guides. So my guess would be this is a form of column.
Or maybe it can be a platoon with no guide and no commander, but a platoon 4 in front with 1 file by the right to the rear.
Correct. Yeah, it could be a platoon in a column with a file to the rear. Of course, the eagle, where should he be?
Back a bit somewhere.
He should be in the ranks. He should be in the ranks. He is normally the second to last left-hand file of the second section of his respective platoon. And most importantly, there should be guides. If I asked you if this is a column, if I ask you, can you tell me if it's a column of sections or a column of platoons? Can you tell me what it is?
No.
Oh, impossible. Totally impossible.
Of sections.
Of sections?
Yeah, there was about 4 units all clumped together at that event. So the intent was a column of sections.
Okay, but you just didn't you didn't use guides in this case.
Well, the gentleman, the tall fellow closest to us behind the youngster,
yes,
he was acting as that future corporal.
Okay. So he was the guide, but he wasn't acting as the guide, as in being outside, being in the command position.
Correct.
Okay, that's easy. But this photo is just especially to illustrate that without guides, it's impossible to identify if a column formation, because I don't know if it's a section or a platoon or a division for that matter.
Both photographs have men looking at their feet, which annoys me immensely. You need to learn to sense the pace. Don't look.
Well, I think this guy is looking at this chap's backside, to be honest.
I'm sure it's lovely.
But yes, it may have been the snap. But yes, don't look down. Look in front. Feel the pace. Going to move on now. This is just for you, mine.
What a lovely group.
We'll start with the left-hand photo. First question, what formation is this?
Appears to be a part of a column of sections.
I was going to say column of sections.
It's a part of a column of sections. You're absolutely correct. Is it correct, or is there a mistake?
All the guides.
Guide,
all guides
on
are
the left-hand side.
Nope.
No, the guides are right because it doesn't matter which side they can be either way.
We are marching with the right in front.
Oh, hang on. No, you're right. Yeah, no, we got that.
Guys,
that fellow on the far right, the guide.
This fellow is the guide. You can see that because there's no one behind him.
Okay, it looks correct to me.
He looks in the right place.
It's absolutely correct. This is a perfect section in a column of section with the officer in front.
Yeah.
The column, the battalion is marching with the right in front, so the guide is on the left. It's perfect. There's nothing to say. Even
the amazingly jaunty hat.
2 corporals.
It's the light infantry swagger, the jaunty hat.
But in the back you see a fanion.
Don't concentrate on that for the moment. That comes later. Just concentrate.
Mistake. It's typically arrogance of light infantry.
I was going to point out that this picture is even more perfect for me because look, the gentleman is holding the hand in the perfect soldier's position. Absolutely perfect. There is nothing wrong with this one. We'll keep this in mind though for for later on.
Okay.
On this side, what is it? What column is it?
It's column of section.
Are you absolutely sure?
Well, it guides to both sides, so it's platoon.
Yeah, it's a column of platoon. The guides on both sides, and we have an officer in front.
Oh, I can't see. Yeah, I can't
But-
see the rank of the guy on the left.
Here you can see is a guide. You don't even need to see his rank
Yeah.
because he's
Carrying his
holding the
gun on his right.
musket on his right, like here. So I have two guides on either side. I have an officer in front. It's a column of platoons, and it's a perfect column of platoons. There is nothing I can say. If there is only one thing I could say, is that remember that they said that 12 was like the minimum frontage for a platoon. It means that in theory, a section should be a minimum of 6 files. Here there are 4. There's 4 on the other one as well, but it's not a major sin. However, 6 files gives you a nice distance to do. The less files than that, you start to get closer and closer to each other. But it's only that's me really splitting hairs. Apart from that, we have a good illustration of a section walking in a column of section with the right in front. And we have a good representation of a column of platoons. However, I cannot tell you if it's marching with the right in front or the left because both guides are out. You just have to be there and know. Again,
you can tell from the height distance of the men.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, well spotted. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Let's look at the photo on the left. What have we got here? What column do we have?
Section.
That's a section.
No.
Missing a guide. I can't see a guide on there.
So
There's an
remember
FCO on the left and none on the right. Oh, hang on.
remember
No,
what
no,
I
there's a bloke.
mentioned. Oh, sorry. Remember what I mentioned about the carriage of arms for NCOs, our guides?
It's supposed to be, yes.
Right, yeah.
It's only if they are at the porte that they carry arms on the right side. All other carriages, l'arme au bras, they have to do it as well.
Ja, maar anders kan ik het niet zien.
So because the guy on our right is wearing a, is it sergeant? I really need to get better at my rank stripes.
Yeah, that's a sergeant, yeah.
So they've got one guide, so it's a column of section.
Well, you also know he's a guide because there's no one behind him.
Oh, I couldn't see that far.
And on this side, if you just peek behind the captain, you can see a bearskin and there's no one behind him. So we have 2 guides. So what is it?
Section of column of platoon.
Column of platoons. Okay. So officers in front, 2 guides. It's just the carriage happens to be at l'arme au bras. Nothing wrong with this. Even the mix of you. I'm not looking at the mix of uniforms. I'm looking at it purely from a maneuver point of view. There's nothing wrong with this one. What's happening on the right-hand side here?
Sorry, is the officer holding the sword in the correct position?
And the officer is holding the sword in the correct position. Damn, I thought I was going to use that.
He is not in the line.
Is the one on right doing a the opposite of a conversion, a tournée?
Yeah.
Or am I
Doing a tournée à gauche.
This is a tournée à gauche, and it is a column of sections, correct? The officer has already started to go off. Again, he should be carrying his sword like this chap, because he's outside the ranks. But now, Sebastian, now you can come in because we can see the second section here. The first section is perfect, and the tournée is being executed perfectly, as far as I'm concerned. What is the issue with the second section?
Can't see the whole picture.
Carriage of arms for the guide.
I don't. So Martin can correct me or not. This was at Fontainebleau, the last one, but on the other photos I saw, he was the guy, the recovering sergeant. Sebastian was the platoon commander, and second section had neither second section commander nor a guide. They would just line up with the guide who was on the left-hand side. Oh, okay. So
it wasn't. This isn't Fontainebleau. We weren't at Fontainebleau. This will be.
Oh no. This is Roy Malmaison. Sorry, it is Roy
I think
Malmaison.
it's Malmaison. Yeah.
Yeah, it is Malmaison. Sorry, I've got Fontainebleau on my mind as well.
Yeah, but I don't remember. I was the other side of the city at this moment in time.
Okay. Okay. Well, just to complete the exercise, there was no left-hand guide at all, and there was no second platoon, second section commander at all. So the first section was perfect, and the second section,
rubbish.
Well, they did it without guides. What you could have done, and this is what I say to people because they say, "Oh, we don't have an officer, or we don't have a sergeant." What I always say is, then you find a corporal, or you find an intelligent private, or you find somebody who knows or can learn to do a particular maneuver, and you say, right, you're acting second section commander, and you're acting left-hand guide. Okay, it doesn't have to be officer systematically. I don't know why Gernot was not there, but he might have been with you, I think, that at that point.
I think, yeah, he was responsible for the bivouac.
Okay, yeah, so he's doing responsible things in the bivouac.
He was looking after the bivouac. Carla was looking after the food, and I was looking after the emperor. I apologize.
I think I don't think there's any need to apologize to look after the emperor.
Oh, I don't know.
But other than that, this is a tourney being perfectly executed. The guide's already moving off in the right place, and one by one, those men are going to come up and line up with him. And that second section is going to execute the same change of direction in the exact same spot as the section in front of it. Sebastian should be looking at the ranks, but he is so full of confidence that everything will go fine that he doesn't need to. Last one for the column, I think. Let's have a look on the left-hand side. What column is this?
We can't tell. There aren't guides.
It's a column of sections.
How can you tell it's a column of sections?
There aren't any guides anywhere.
There's a guide as in a corporal on the right.
No. Corporals in the ranks are never ever guides. A guide is always out of the ranks.
Oh, he's got someone behind him.
However, the corporals are in the correct position for them. They should be on the extremities of the sections. That's true.
There's no way of knowing.
Exactly. No, there is no way because I don't have guides. If I had two guides on one side, it would be a column of section. If I had two guys on each side of those units, it would be a column of platoons. So again, without guides, you can't tell what it is. And also for maneuver purposes, this is going to be quite interesting for the man behind those corporals. If those corporals aren't acting as guides, this is going to be a very difficult day for the men just behind them to maneuver. Likewise, there's no officer. I can't see a second section. I can't see a platoon commander. I suppose it's Willie at the back going to have a chat with someone. And I can't see a second section commander either.
You have the second section commander. If you see in the middle behind the two white shackle.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought, oh yeah, you're right. I stand corrected. Yeah, you have one man here, and then you have two men. So yeah, they do have a second section commander, but they have no guides. Correct. Which is a pity because
the drummers are just placed with no thought at all.
Nope, no thought at all. But I'm not concentrating on the drums today, though. This is purely to show purely to show columns. And on the right-hand side, yep, Galaxy. On the right-hand side here, I did ask what it was, and it is it's marching in a column at pas de route, so it's a route march. Okay. So as this is, I thought this would be good because it shows you how it should look like. There's only one thing that's wrong that I can see. Can anybody see it?
There's no guides.
Yeah, again, no guides.
There is no guide. There should be a guide either on this side. If these are the three ranks, it should be either here or here, depending on where depending on whether it's a column of platoon or a column of sections. I would say that if this was a flank march, it would be completely wrong because flank march in open order, the third rank would take the left-hand side of the road. The middle rank would be in the middle of the road, and the front rank and the other rank would be on the other side. You would share the road out like that. But I did ask, and this was supposed to be a column marching at the pas de route. But it's a nice way to show you how a column at the pas de route at March Easy should look like.
Could I add that the cantonniere seems to have stolen government property?
Yeah, that's the government property on her head. We agree on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good reminder that military uniformed vivandières and blanchisseurs, that's Second Empire. It's a felony at this time for non-military men to be wearing military items of uniform.
Just a quick note, Mark, it's just about 1:15 already.
Okay, wait, I think there's only one more slide after this. The last slide. So what can we see on the left?
It's a column of
platoons.
A column of platoons.
Are there two guides on either side?
Well, it looks, one of them, the guy looks like, unless he's an officer.
That's a captain.
Oh, right. Oh, well, then it's section.
It's a column of section, and here you see why the guides are separate and cannot be in the ranks. Look at this line. They're all lining up on each other. You cannot do that if you're in the rank because there's a guy blocking the view. Here we're in the process of going from line to battle and forming a column of sections on the right for parade. And for parade, we've placed the drummers here. Here you can see the adjutant. This is a battalion. You can see the adjutant. He's shown the dressing lines. So the front guide dresses on him. He dresses on him. He dresses on him, so on and so forth. You can see also that they have more or less finished, or the officers decide to go off here and check on something. Me and this officer, we are still dressing our respective sections, and you can see other officers have already dressed them. Okay, so this is how it looks when it's done correctly. And over here, you have that same column of sections wheeling. Why are they wheeling? Because the guide, this is on the left-hand side, so it's a wheel on the opposite side of the guide. You have the sergeant here, sergeant? Oh no, it's a quick caporal for you, or maybe a sergeant major. He's acting as the second section commander, and you have the guide here, and the marker that indicates to every single platoon or section coming along where the wheel is to be executed. So I thought I'd close this case study with two examples of how it looks when it's done well. And also with the fact that you don't need to be an officer and you don't need to be a striped NCO to do any of these positions. You just need to be a reenactor who studies and knows what they're doing. If the CADs work, like Martin said earlier, if the CADs know what they're doing and know how to do the maneuvers, the rest of the men will get into position one way or another. We've come to the end of our presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. Thanks again, Victor, for organizing it. Are there any last questions or remarks that you would like to put forward before we all go our separate ways?
Could I say that the School of the Platoon is the next level for reenactment? If you're interested in the School of the Platoon, you're rare. And the people here who have sat here for the nearly 3 hours and are still paying attention to it, recognize you're rare. You need to work together. You need to talk, and you're the people who can help your area of reenactment to grow up and to take the next level. And the person I admire most here is Frida, who has sat and watched all of this, and Greg owes her a foot massage today.
Here. Yes, I would again echo what Martin just said is that in order to do platoons, we need to get several groups together, or the big groups can do it by themselves. But the next level up from this, and the reason why you do platoon, is to be able to do battalion. And even for the big groups, we need to work together to form battalion. It's the only way we can then finally see why all of this is supposed to work like this. There is a reason, but we just never go, like Martin said, as far as the platoon school, and we don't go beyond that to go into the battalion school. So we need to work together. You've all showed an interest, so I would say take that, use it in your respective countries, in your respective groups, in your respective federations or associations of groups. Get together, and here there is no need to have any ego trips. There is no need to have any clash of interpretations or whatever, because it's one rule book. There is one rule book, one way of doing these maneuvers. So if we all learn the rule books, we can slide in, and the Americans, especially, and Canadians, you can come to Europe and slide in anywhere, because if everybody works to the rule book as opposed to doing interpretations or changing aspects of the rule book, as I've sometimes seen, because it's the way we've done it for 20 years, is the classic one I hear. You can form a battalion, you can form a platoon with anyone anyway, because you're all working off the same regulations.
Mark, I have a little practical question.
Yeah.
In the end of the Napoleonic period, with the huge strain on the army and on the recruiting, do you think there was still a certain level of maneuverability available? Because the book is nice, but you need the training, etc. So at Waterloo, where there's still these nice disciplined maneuvers.
They may not be as nice as the army that walked out of Boulogne, but even at Waterloo, they attacked in a column of division. They attacked in a column of attack. The maneuvers don't.
That's what the books write that they did, but
but that's a different question, and I can't answer that. I was not there, but. Some people argue that the book is the book, and they didn't fight like that at all. And I'm like, well, yeah, okay, maybe, I don't know, I wasn't there, but where does that leave us?
I think in practice, quite a lot of reenactors tend to think like those lines. I think we can taste that in the practice of the hobby.
Mm.
If I can add something to Sebastian, you have to understand that 1815 French army is not 1814.
Correct.
You have all the veterans came back from Germany. You have no conscript in 1815. You have most of them young veterans enlisted 1813, early 14.
Yeah.
That means they all make their class. They are quite well trained, especially in the Northern Army for Belgium invasion. It was the best army at the moment in the French army.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it also goes back to what Mark was showing us earlier, that when you're doing 2 or 3 files to the rear, that is difficult because the individual men have to think. But for the rest of the time, if you've got good platoon and section commanders and good guides, the simple soldier doesn't need to know anything. He knows how to walk, turn, and wheel, and he follows the man in front, and there's nothing to know. You can even us with reenactment groups, if you can have people in the ranks who know nothing, and it will look okay as long as you've got good leaders and guides.
Yeah, that's true. Well said.
Almost like that was the way it was designed.
I would add to what Martin said that men do have to act somewhat independently in some of these movements, but they learn them by repetition, and when you're marching by the flank and you're forming line to the front, each man and his file mate act independently. And when you learn to do that, you can do a turn. And when you learn to do a turn, then you can form on the right by files. So it's all there. And that, you know, that's so basic that just about any one of these guys is going to have learned that before they go into battle.
Absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
maybe we should make that the last comment. I want to thank everybody for joining in. And I have a last question for Marc. When do you think you'll have the School of the Battalion ready?
Good question. In theory, the third book, School of the Battalion, should have come out at the beginning of last year. But let's say other things popped up in March that sort of put pay to that. To be honest, the School of the Battalion part is as thick as the School of the Soldier and the School of the Platoon together. So it's a case of me not just reproducing the text, but it's a case of me trying to write it in such a way that people will not be discouraged once they've read the first page. So it's a work in progress. That's all I can say at the moment. But there are still plenty of School of the Platoon books available at Ken Trotman Publishing if you want to get your hands on it. Apparently, it's a nice book.
All right. And to remind everyone, if you want a copy of the presentation as well as the PowerPoint, send me an email to victor.eiser@yahoo.com. It would be $5 US by PayPal, and I would be happy to send you the copies. On that note, I'll stop recording and say merci beaucoup à tout le monde. And stay healthy, everybody.
Just add one more question.
Yes.
If it's possible. If you're with a smaller group, so you still always need 2 guides.
So the smallest amount of guides you would need to be 3, because you just consider you are a section. You are not a platoon of 2 sections. You're just a section, but you will still need a platoon, a section commander in this case, a captain. You would need a right-hand guide and a left-hand guide. However, it depends with who you're working with. However, if it is a very small group, I suppose you could get away with having one guide that could just shift from one flank to the other, but you would never, ever be able to do anything in column of the platoon. You would always have to consider you are in a column of sections.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
All right, I'm turning off recording now. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.